pro-life legislation has been introduced in 46 states so far this year. But what is being done at the federal level on Capitol Hill? Joining us now is Senator Steve Daines, Republican from Montana and founder and chair of the Senate Pro-Life Caucus. Senator Daines, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. First off, I'd like to get your reaction to the pro-life legislation that's being introduced on the state level, including 3 bills signed just last month in your own state of Montana.
Well, it's very encouraging, Tracy. Grateful for these pro-life governors, pro-life legislatures that are now not only passing pro-life legislation in the legislature, but we're seeing governors actually signing these important bills, like Governor Gianforte has done in Montana. In Montana, we elected the first pro-life governor in 16 years in this last election. And he's doing such great work. They passed the Pain Capable Act, which of course will prohibit abortions after 20 weeks, something we're fighting for here in Washington. But of course, we have challenges here. But I'm so encouraged by what's happening across the country at the state level, because these pro-life states now are really stepping it up and are going to provide, I think, great help to us long term as we work to overturn Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and can you also talk about, the ways the Biden administration is really trying to push that pro-abortion agenda? And what are pro-life lawmakers, what are they doing and how are they responding?
Well, it's just a really stark contrast between what we had with President Trump, who was the most pro-life president in my lifetime. We saw tremendous results from President Trump and his team working with pro-life legislators. Contrast that to President Biden. Sadly, President Biden has had a radical shift to the left, and particularly on the issue of abortion. Here we had President Trump, who was strongly pro-life. Unfortunately, President Biden is now just such a pro-abortion advocate. He's the most radical, most pro-abortion president I think we've ever seen. And he's back now, I think, to basically paying off Planned Parenthood after this last election, because they raised millions of dollars to get him elected, and it's payback time. And at the bottom line is we must do everything we can in Congress now to protect the most vulnerable in our society. That's, of course, the unborn, the elderly, and the disabled, protecting all life. But look what's happened here under President Biden already. They've excluded Hyde protections in that COVID relief package that they passed on a purely partisan basis earlier this year. That's the first time in 44 years that the Hyde protections, which do not allow for taxpayer dollars to fund abortions, he had that removed. And that's what Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and President Biden passed. He nixed the policy that prevents taxpayer dollars going to fund abortions overseas. President Trump had stopped that. President Biden put that back in place. And then if you really look at what happened, sadly, with this new Secretary of Health and Human Services, which is Javier Becerra, he is one of the most pro-abortion, probably the most pro-abortion secretaries of Health and Human Services we ever had in our country's history. Remember, the Department of HHS, Health and Human Services, oversees $1.2 trillion of healthcare-related spending. When he came before the committee that I serve on, the Finance Committee, I asked him, would you even think about prohibiting any abortion at any time? And the answer was no. He couldn't think of one single prohibition of abortion, even up to 9 months in the womb. Even after a baby is delivered with the Baby Born Alive bill, it simply says if a baby is born as a result of a botched abortion, you must keep that baby alive. He wouldn't even support that. That's not even abortion. That's infanticide. So it's just a really stark contrast and a sad moment in our history of how radically pro-abortion this administration is. But we're fighting back. And thankfully, we have a very strong Supreme Court. We have stronger circuit court judges because of President Trump. And we're doing all we can to stop this radical shift of this pro-abortion agenda.
Well, Senator, we don't have a lot of time left, but I want to talk about this. I know you recently appeared at the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life Summit in Florida. Among the speakers was former President Donald Trump. I'm curious, how was that summit, and how was the former president received?
Well, the Susan B. Anthony list is one of the great pro-life groups in America. I'm so thankful for the work they are doing. Their leadership of Marjorie Dannenfelser as well as her team, they're just the best. And they gave such a warm response to President Trump, who came and spoke at that summit. We had Lindsey Graham, who's been one of my great partners here in the Senate, pro-life legislation. They had Governor Ron DeSantis, another strong pro-life governor. But the president was so warmly received. It was really a chance for us to tell him thank you and how much we need his policies and his leadership here in Washington. But he was warmly received, and he gave such a strong shout out to the Susan B. Anthony list. They are such great partners in this battle for life in Washington, D.C. and across our country.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for your time today and for what you're doing. We really appreciate it. Senator Steve Daines, Republican from Montana and founder and chair of the Senate Pro-Life Caucus. Thank you again, and God bless you.
Thank you, Tracy. God bless you, too.